So thank you for joining everybody. I'm Mike Molinay, one of the founders of Thina, and really excited to have Lane, Kate, and Pav here. We'll go through introductions here in a second, but before we do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. So we are recording this, so we'll send out the recording afterwards in case you want to share it with anyone. Also, we have a Q&A section in the webinar. If you haven't used the Zoom webinar Q&A, you can use that to ask questions throughout. I'll either try to incorporate those throughout, or we will get to those at the end. We will save time at the end for audience Q&A, so feel free to drop them in there. We also have the chat as well if you want to use that at any point. So first, want to do a round of introductions. We'll start with Lane and then Kate and Pav. If you could introduce yourself, who you are, your role, and what company you're from, and then we can dive into the webinar from there.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Lane Hart, joining from Content Square. I actually joined Content Square pretty recently after my previous company, Heap, was acquired by Content Square. I spent about 5 years at Heap leading customer success and operations, and we are analytics and digital experience platform. So we're all about helping folks improve their digital experiences by getting more insight into what's happening.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm Kate Weber. I am the head of customer success at KubeCost. We help teams get visibility and insights into their Kubernetes infrastructure to enable them to continuously reduce cost and drive efficiency. I've been at KubeCost for about 2 years, leading customer success management, technical success management, and part of support as well. So excited to chat.
Cool. Well, I guess it's me. I'm Pav. I'm from DataStax, the Gen AI data company. You must have heard of us. If not, you need to Google us for sure. We help developers and companies build a whole bold new world through Gen AI, which is obviously the hype, but we're not part of the hype. We actually provide you solutions. So look us up. I'm part of the support engineering team, and I am the innovation and operations lead, helping us shape our new support model.
Awesome. Well, first of all, huge thank you, all three of you, for joining today. So what we're going to be talking about today is the role of Slack in customer success and support. This has been an interesting trend that's happened over the last few years and has really increased. And we work together, all four of us work together in various different ways. And so really wanted to start with each of your use cases and a brief overview of your stack, kind of how you interact and engage with customers, and then kind of how this topic fits in with what you're doing. And then we'll dive into some specifics there. Kate, would love to start with you, and then Pav, and then Lane.
Yeah, so as part of our kind of customer success offering at KubeCost, we give a private Slack channel to all of our enterprise customers. And so today that's around, I think, 125 individual channels that we are managing at any given moment. And so while we don't have Thina yet integrated with HubSpot or any of our kind of other existing tooling, we've really just been leveraging it to make sure that we're getting stellar visibility into the needs of our customers and are able to address them as quickly as possible. KubeCost, I think what's a bit unique about us is that we are actually a self-hosted product. We have a recently released cloud product, but working with developers and engineers, they prefer to interface with Slack. And so, we were experiencing Slack threads becoming hundreds of messages long, and without kind of clear roles and responsibilities across our technical success teams and our support teams, it was really difficult for us to understand who's responsible for kind of responding to this thread, who's ultimately responsible for driving it to resolution, and how do we give our product teams really clear visibility into what the heck's going on with our customers. And so Thina has been just an absolute game changer for us in enabling us to, again, understand what is going on within our customer environments and helping to kind of drive up customer sentiment over time.
Love that. And you hit on something that we see pretty often, which is developers especially love to operate in Slack. And it sounds like they do it a lot if some of your threads are 100 messages long, which I want to come back to a little bit later. Pav, tell us a little bit about your tech stack and kind of how you're interacting with customers and where Slack fits in.
Yeah, no. So Our support team is very technical based, and we support a bunch of our products. Our cloud offering, Astra, that's where most of our business is currently lying, but we also have our on-premise and I guess server-based DSC. Slack's been there since the beginning. Like if I'm being 100 about this, without Slack, there isn't really a support team. We take all of our tickets in Salesforce. We just migrated from Zendesk. We used to use Zendesk since the birth of the company, I think, and we moved to Salesforce 2 years ago, just because it was a better integration with our sales team, and we can keep record and all these cool automations that we'll get into. But yeah, so Slack kind of fits into the I guess I want to call it the brain of our triage. There is no ways we're doing all these mass communications on things like Salesforce on a ticket. Even if it's internally, whatever you want to do, put notes. We're doing it real time. We need it there. We're adding people on because we're worldwide and we got all our devs somewhere else. We got our engineers somewhere else. We got our agents somewhere else. We bring us all in. And we're a 24/7 support business. So we operate on something called an FTS, which means follow the sun model. And so Slack is kind of the best way to do that handover, right? If that doesn't exist, then I guess we don't, you know? So that's kind of our stack and how vital it's been for us. And I guess I'll get into it in a bit with how we're doing this with Thina as well. So
Wonderful. Great introduction. I love the brain of our triage. It's really interesting way of thinking about it. Lane, what about a Content Square heap?
So Content Square and Heap is interesting. It's kind of, I think, a mix. And when you think about our end users, obviously everything is oriented around the folks that we serve on the customer success side. We have really two groups of personae that we work with. One is the more technical folks, the engineers, the developers, folks that are instrumenting sites that are working on getting Heap set up. They're vital to the success of the platform. And then on the other side are the folks that are using the platform to analyze what's happening in their digital experience. So those are folks like a product manager, a data analyst, a marketer. Those folks are sometimes less technical. They're reliant on the engineers, and they're often reliant on our folks to make sure that Heap is set up and working properly. And what I found is that it's really important to bring together all of those personae to make the magic of the product really work to be able to make decisions, which is the most important thing we drive. When you think about the tech stack that we have to support that, I guess I'll first start with the account coverage model. So Heap works across three main segments of customers. We have our very high touch, very large enterprise and strategic accounts. And then we have a segment of mid-market customers that are kind of in the middle, the emerging growth companies. And then we have a long tail of SMB customers that are largely self-serve, but sometimes engage with us. And so as we've grown up as a company and as we joined Content Square recently, where Content Square is much more upmarket, we're now trying to figure out how do we provide the right level of touch to help those personae that I mentioned earlier across all those motions. And that's where the tech stack that we have has really helped support it. We have customer success managers, we have account managers and account executives, depending on the tier. And we use tools like Catalyst and Salesforce. We use our own product Heap. And more recently, over the past year, started using Slack and Thina to sort of tame some of that chaos, but give folks that high touch service, even if we don't have a high touch model on that account. So I'll get into that a little bit later, but I wanted to give that context that we're dealing with different personae and different segments. And that has really been the power of bringing Thina into the tech stack, that it allows us to harmonize all of those and provide a consistent experience across them.
I love that. And I do want to come back later about how you're working across different high touch, mid market, and SMB and kind of how that shifted over the last year. Before we do that, Lane, you touched on something which is interesting, which is not only is it about the external communication with customers, but also you guys use Slack, and Slack helps bring together personas. Kate, Pav, I'm curious, do you see it also in your companies where Slack is kind of the place where teams are also collaborating, whether it be externally or even internally across different personas, whether it be CS, support, product, marketing, et cetera? And if so, tell us about how that kind of works in your companies.
Yeah, I mean, I think Slack, again, being an all remote company, it is the primary mode of communication for us, along with Google Drive, which we can, hem and haw about at another time. But, for us, Slack, we leverage dozens of kind of private internal channels to help us not only work cross-departmentally, but address customer issues in real time. I think the other thing that might be a bit unique for us is we also use Slack as part of our community. So KubeCost, we were part of the CNCF Foundation as an incubator project, and we are an open source company. And so we have hundreds of thousands of companies leveraging our open source tooling. And so we use Slack in kind of a public fashion. And so that becomes another kind of big part of our engine, is not only kind of engaging internally and externally with paying customers, but then also our incredibly large community. And to your point, Lane, making sure we're delivering the right experience to the right user at the right time.
Do you mind if we touch on that a little bit? Because I see Lane and Pav kind of nodding as well. Lane and Pav, do you guys also either use communities, or have you been part of communities, or are you thinking about how communities might help you scale Slack-based support and CS, but to the long tail? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, on that, so we obviously our foundation was on Apache Cassandra, right? And so this is open source, huge community in the world, huge community, and Slack played a huge part alongside like YouTube videos, because we had like developer advocates, and then we had like training programs. Where do we really handle this kind of volume? Slack was it, right? In an external format. And also to answer the question you asked just before this, Mike, is 100%, like, yes, we're using Slack as an internal, I guess, super platform, right? But it's also there for our customers. It's also there for our partners that we've partnered up. So they could be customers or partners. And I think my favorite, I guess, because I'm always doing this, is talking with vendors, right? First question I ask is, do you have a Slack? That's like my instant brain reaction. And they're like, oh, we were just going to ask about that. Can we go back and forth on Slack? And that right there has now been implemented. And I guess the sales team's been doing it right from the beginning, right? So the best way, start that funnel, bring it here, the support funnel, the engineering funnel, even the exec funnel. Like, we're touching different places in the whole of, I guess, our business pipeline. And communities was definitely one of them a while ago. We're not doing it at the moment, but yes, fully relate to that, Kate.
I think to be probably overly transparent on our side, we're still trying to figure out the right balance between having a Slack community for our free tier customers or folks that are not yet customers, and pushing them to our public online community, which we host on Insided. One of the benefits, obviously, of Insided is that it really helps with search engine optimization, and just anytime someone's looking for something, it really boosts those search results and funnels people into the right place. So we've made a big investment there, and we're not yet using Slack for any for more of a public forum, but we do have it with most of our paying customers. And I find that it's, especially in large organizations, of which we work with many, it's almost like, it's a perfect blend of public and private when you have a channel with a really large organization that may have thousands of people, because it actually ends up being a place where someone can go and search for context. And what I've found is that over time, that's actually decreased the amount of redundant questions that get asked, as inevitably a new person comes on board, they have the same question over and over. So we get that leverage with those larger accounts, but those large companies appreciate the fact that it's a semi-private space, because in our world, they're often sharing a screenshot of a chart which has proprietary information in it, and that can't really be posted online without blurring out a bunch of things and making it kind of useless. So we find that Slack is kind of that happy medium for public versus private.
It's really helpful, really insightful. And for those that aren't familiar, we do see a lot of companies that will do kind of two different models. You'll do kind of dedicated Slack channels, usually via Slack Connect, with a one-on-one interaction with just one company. And then often that tends to be, and Kate, tell me if this is how you guys do it, but often that's in your normal workspace, your corporate workspace. And then separately might have a totally different Slack workspace, which is kind of considered a community workspace. And it's kind of an open community. Anyone can join. You can even put a link on your website for somebody to join that community. And then you might have a couple channels one for feature requests, one for general questions, one for bugs, maybe some other ones as well, maybe announcements, and anyone can join in that channel. And we see companies sometimes have 10,000 plus people in their communities. And Kate, is that how you guys do it as well?
We actually have one workspace, which
Oh, it's
makes
one.
it so challenging. So what's interesting is our only public channels within KubeCost and kind of within the community are our support channel and our general channel. Every other channel, including our internal channels and our customer channels, are completely private. So that makes it challenging from an internal perspective because you're like, what if I want to be in the pets channel? I don't know that it exists. So we have to be really kind of forward looking, but it's worked for us because again, to Lane's point, like we only do one-to-one private channels with our customers. So it's worked out.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, different model there for sure, doing everything private and everything all in one as well, but also works. Lane, just real quick. So Rishab in the Q&A asked, what was the tool you used? I believe it was Inside, and that's part of Gainsight, if I recall correctly.
That's right.
Okay, cool. And so it's a web-based community as well, where you can also host content and forums and things like that. Is that right?
Yeah, it's on a subdomain of our site on community.heap.io.
Okay.
We also, on the Content Square site, we use the same thing. We're working on merging the domains together now.
Very nice. Cool. And before we move on, Dave from Zero Hash asked about, so Pav, your feelings about the transition from Zendesk to Salesforce as a ticketing system. So it's a bit of an aside, but any initial thoughts?
Yeah, no, Dave, it's a great question, a painful question. There is mixed feelings. Zendesk has its strengths and weaknesses. Salesforce has its strengths and weaknesses. What I can say is very useful if you have a team that's ready to build on top of Salesforce and build automations and make it very custom to your business. 100% Salesforce wins. But if you're just going to use the out-of-box experience, I would 100% always choose Zendesk.
Wonderful. Appreciate that. So we talked about a lot of different things. Lane, you talked a little bit about kind of high touch, mid-market and SMB, and kind of maybe leaving the SMB or long tail out of it. How's your perception changed over the years as you think about, is Slack just for high touch? Can it be for mid-market? If so, do you think about changing the approach that you interact with mid-market? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I had a funny story as I was thinking about this panel. So my very first project when I joined Heap 4 years ago, I was working directly with our co-founder, was to put together basically a brief on what we should do about Slack, because we had a separate Slack. I mean, it was before Slack Connect existed. We had a separate Slack, workspace, and it was honestly a mess because we had, you're toggling between the workspaces. It wasn't what it is today. And the TLDR is, my recommendation was we should stop doing this because it's creating a bad customer experience and a bad employee experience. And everyone was bummed, both internally and externally, but there was just no way to scale it. So we actually shut that down and then moved it over to Inside, where we could get the benefits that I mentioned earlier. And that was so that we spent about 2 years where we didn't have anything. And then actually, Mike, when we got in touch is when I first became aware of tools like Thina emerging in the market. And when Slack Connect was really coming up, what we found is that for all of our deals pre-sale, our solution consultants and our sellers love to have Slack. It's one of the first things that we do. But then we were creating kind of a bad customer experience because we would have a really high touch Slack experience with them during the sales cycle, but then we would give them the bad news that, hey, we're not going to be able to support this going forward. So now we have it anywhere where we have a Slack channel open, we just bring Thina into that channel, and then we're able to support that for different types of customers. And the way that we support it is really by setting the right expectation on the response time and who's going to be involved in responding. So in some cases during, if you think of the life cycle for a product like ours, you have the implementation where there's, a lot of folks working for a month or so getting things set up. Some of those people will exit stage right, but may still be peripherally involved. And then we'll hand over to the end users who are really the folks that are using it on an ongoing basis. the most important thing was to set expectations on, hey, during this period, the implementation consultants, whether they're partners of ours or whether they're internal folks, are going to be interacting in this channel. And then after that, we have this connected to Zendesk, and here's the SLA that's in your contract. This is the SLA that you should expect. It will likely be faster than this, but this is the maximum SLA that you should expect. So I think the most important thing was just setting those expectations across the life cycle. But the huge residual benefit that we get is that all that context still lives in the channel. So oftentimes people are leaving and joining companies and they have questions about how is this thing even set up? They can just, Command F and search in that Slack channel and get all of that historical context. Same thing for internal transitions within our accounts. So very long-winded answer to your question, but now we're able to do it across all by setting the right expectations.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. It's something that we see quite often, which is if you spin it up during the sales process, that context is there in theory forever, or as long as you retain the data, which historically was isolated maybe in email, and then maybe it would be stored in Salesforce or HubSpot, but nobody was necessarily going in and searching that context in the past. Hey, at KubeCost, when and how do you spin up Slack channel? Because you mentioned you have about 125 customer channels today. Do you spin them up during the sales process as well? And then maybe even before Athena, how did you think about supporting those channels versus after Athena? After you found us?
It's a good question. So similar to Lane, I think all of our we call them kind of like our VIP POCs. So these are like our top enterprise customers, biggest deals that we're working. Those customers typically get a Slack channel, and then it's really at sales's discretion if they feel like it's worthwhile. But kind of prior to Athena, I think the challenge for us was around like setting those expectations, as Lane mentioned. Like, we do a traditional onboarding call, we try to provide that visibility. And something where Athena has been really helpful for us is actually in the like marketing automation features, because we're able to kind of segment our customers. So for example, I know these 20 customers are currently in onboarding. Before Athena, I would have individually have to go into every Slack channel and say, hey, Mr. Customer who's in onboarding, here's this amazing piece of content or webinar or what have you that you might get value out of. I think anybody can agree doing that even more than 3 times is painful. And so now with Athena, I can group our customers kind of based on where they are in the customer life cycle, and then use that marketing automation feature to get the right message out to them. And so for us, that's really where Athena's been a game changer, is because again, now we're able to be a bit more high touch, if you will, even if they're not that like enterprise customer. So it's been incredibly helpful.
I love that. And you could even split it rather than by life cycle. You could split it by even tier. You could split it by region. Doing an event in London versus doing an event in San Diego, that might be different customers that you reach out to. Totally. I love that. That's a really good use case. And so, Kate, your interactions mostly exist within Slack. You're interacting with your customers mostly in Slack. Pav, you have Slack, but then you also have this integration via Athena to now Salesforce rather than Zendesk. Tell us about how your flows work with customers, which is a little bit different, right? Which is it's Slack plus an external ticketing system like Salesforce.
Yeah. No. So I mean, before we started doing a POC with Athena and actually got it implemented in our production system, what we call, but it was all Salesforce. Either it was Zendesk or Salesforce, right? We offer emails, but then we've also created enough tools that will take an email and make a Salesforce ticket, tie them. So we just kind of wanted to live in Salesforce in the last few years, right? And there's a lot of things that can be great and bad about this. I mean, the main thing is that you don't get the amount of collaboration you want. Salesforce operates on a license basis. If you want access to that platform, they need a license. And if you've got like hundreds of people, this is a very, very costly thing to actually implement. This invited a lot of problems. So we started dealing with oh, let's use screenshots as send this to that team, send it to this team. And then Jira is also a source of management, right? We love Jira. So we actually worked with a vendor that helped us build a kind of a bidirectional system with Jira and Salesforce. So if we tag a Jira for this given ticket, all comments from here will flow into that Jira so the dev team can look at it, because we didn't give our dev teams licenses to come into a ticket, because then things can get a bit messy. Um, we have a lot of numbers working at one given time, and because we're dealing, as I mentioned earlier, with like very mission critical point of support, and then leading to customer success and helping them be on a healthy plan. Salesforce was just not, or is not, our end goal. We want to modernize the way we work, and that's where Athena entered. And Slack has fit into this very, very, very well, because we had our account reps, account execs, anyone else would come in and be like, they have their own channel and be like, where are you getting this information from? So we would not know. So there was a lot of siloed information between departments now, where it's like, what, you have a channel with them? We didn't know that. Go talk to them there, and then they're pinging there. Then you tell them to go on Salesforce portal and go and create a ticket. You create this really vicious cycle of, I guess, discomfort, and it's just not fun for us as the people work here, and it's definitely not fun for the customer. So Slack is kind of the new big push, right? Is, can we keep the customer there, and at the same time, can we keep the employee there too of DataStax? If you want to go to Salesforce, great, you can work with that, and that's what we've built with the great people over at Athena. But if you want to still, modernize your operations, especially when you're dealing with the kind of tickets we're dealing with, where you could at one given time have over 400 replies, like, it's crazy. So how do you support a model like that? And Slack is definitely, not definitely, it is the direction, not just we need to head in, but the industry needs to head in. This is the way to move forward. And that's how we have found our pain points, but also found our grace points.
And I want to come back to that last bullet you said, but I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Before that, you talked about kind of meeting your customers in Slack, if that's where they're working, but also enabling your team to either operate out of Salesforce or operate out of Slack, whatever they preferred. This concept of kind of meet people where they want to work, irrespective of what platform they're on. Kate, I saw your head nodding, and Lane, your head nodding. Curious how that resonates with you, and if you kind of share a similar philosophy of meeting people where they're working.
Yeah, I mean, again, for us with our customers, like working with developers and engineers, like if that is their preferred method of communication, we're happy to do that. I also think that especially for our internal teams, a big challenge that we've had is again, it's tooling fatigue, right? There's like Pav said, it's like I have Zendesk, I have Jira, I have Athena, we have GitHub. I could probably name 4 other places. And unfortunately, it's not like everything integrates perfectly together. And so like something that's been really beneficial for us is almost every team at KubeCost utilizes Athena in a different way. So again, our marketing team uses Athena for marketing automation. My team uses it, of course, to help manage customer relationships. Our support team uses it to triage issues. Our product team leverages kind of the AI capabilities to say, oh, interesting, we just did a release. What is the most common issue that our customers are experiencing? Insert here. And so for us, rather than meeting people where they are, we've created the place where they want to work. So I think that for us has been a great way to kind of reduce some of those silos and again, to make this information as readily available as possible.
Yeah, I think probably the overplayed adage of it's something like your last best experience is now the minimum expectation definitely rings true here, because it's such just a smooth user experience. What I will say to your point, Kate, about the product team interacting, I mean, because we have so many Slack channels that we use across the organization, internally and externally, what I found as a customer success leader is that the more specific you can be about examples from customers, the better when you're trying to get attention around a specific issue, or when you're trying to advocate for what customers really need to solve their problems. That's where it's super helpful to be able to just forward a message directly from a channel into an engineering channel where obviously we don't want the engineers in that channel. It's not the best use of their time, but you can get those like specific pieces of customer truth right away. And we actually have a way, we use Jira to manage our customer feedback process. So we can just push an item to create a Jira issue directly from Slack or forward it into an internal channel. And that really just, it helps get folks aligned and ask following questions. Sometimes we'll even have product people then pop into the channel and just start talking with our customers who are often product people as well. So it creates, it helps us work a lot faster. One of the things we were talking about earlier was just how you can shorten those loops, and it helps shorten all of the loops. And then the last thing I would say is something on a totally different topic is that when you think about like traditional tickets or loops of communication, it was often an email that was forwarded, and now you have like 85 people on this email, and you're like, plus Mike, plus Kate. And then all of a sudden you now have the CEO on this email, and it ends up threading off to something totally different. You get that the benefit of the passive visibility without the annoyance of it just like filling up someone's inbox, and it's much easier to manage or sort of mute the chaos when it's not relevant. So I think it's the right balance of visibility without being annoying or siloed.
Such an interesting insight there. And I saw Pav and Kate nodding as well. Yeah, passive visibility is a great way to think about it. And I think about it even with tickets that end up in a different system, right? Like Pav, with your tickets, in a historical way, before Athena, for example, things would go to Salesforce, but the CSM or somebody that might have been in Slack wouldn't have that visibility. And now they do. In a passive way, they can just monitor the thread, get updates, but without being, to your point, Lane, getting annoyed. Have you seen similar things? And has that been kind of and Kate as well? Curious your thoughts as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Lane, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's interesting because you have so many different functions aiming for that customer success, right? It's it's just bad because it reaches in our business or my business where I'm primarily working. If the customers come to us, there's somewhere we've failed or something they've broken, right? And that's already a point of frustration. And so we kind of always deal with like, oh my God, this is just the negative end of the customer. Things are gonna get really hairy from here, and we might need this person to come in and help us. Before, and it's exactly how you said, Lane, before it's like you had to jump between all of those different platforms. You had to. Was there a trail? It was more like, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, did you check this? That's literally the line of business that takes place in most of these very heated moments, right? And I've seen this elsewhere, seen it with a bunch of people. And now it's like with Fina, especially, right? We have requests, right? And you know if something got turned into a Salesforce case, here's the Salesforce case number. Was there a Jira assigned to it inside of Salesforce? Tied. Eventually, you want to build everything into one place where Slack is holding all of this information. And a bit different, I don't think Slack is a great place for track of record. I know Slack is, I know we've all been talking about it, that it's great for searching. If you need to find something, I actually disagree. I think that's one of its most unproductive features. It has caused a lot of, in my experience at least, it's caused a lot of misguidance. Like you see something, you're like, oh, is this active? No, I don't know if this is active. Yeah, was this the latest information? No, it wasn't, because the latest information was in this private channel. And it's like, oh, that's great. But you just wasted like 2 hours, 3 hours waiting for people to come online, tell you that piece of information. So for me, Slack hasn't been the best like trace of record. And I still rely on Salesforce, and we still rely on Salesforce for that kind of information. But the visibility part, by far, like there is no competition. You're absolutely right.
Kate, any thoughts or anything you want to add?
I really agree with these guys, like they hit the nail on the head, honestly. I think like our motto at KubeCost is like, I am not the customer success leader. Like we are all customer success leaders, and we are all a part of customer success. And so we really believe that like a value of ours as a company is love the user. And so we don't care who loves the user first or loves the user last or resolves the issue. It's just making sure that we're getting the right people involved at the right time and that we're escalating as early as possible. And so that, again, I think is the next phase of our journey with Thena, is really making sure that, again, our entire developer and engineering team has access to Thena. And so again, when you're exploring an issue, to Pav's point, I can then go look and say, okay, customer X has logged these 50 issues in the last few months. Like, how do I get a better understanding of this? And the Thena AI feature is great for that, because they don't have to go read through, this entire thread of things. They can just get the quick summary and they're like, okay, like it's clear they continue to have an issue with this problem over time. Now we can go ultimately escalate from there.
I love that. Such a great quote. We're all a part of customer success, and the value of yours is love the user. And I think it ties to what Lane was talking about earlier too, where kind of everyone is involved in kind of the customer outcome. At the end of the day, whether it's CS, solutions eng, support, marketing, even product and engineering, you're all working towards that customer outcome. And that's the common denominator, the customer. And so giving everybody a place to collaborate, communicate, work effectively, and then making sure all the data and the systems are tied together is really important. Lane, one thing for us to follow up on, we now have a Jira in a connection, which can not only send stuff to Jira, but also actually connect engineering issue in Jira back to the customer request so you can get updated, which is a common challenge that we've even faced, right? We use linear, but okay, we file a bug, it gets updated 3 weeks later or whenever, but we forget what was the customer, where was that thread, even remembering to go update them. And so we connect those, that way you can get updated internally. That could be something, but it all comes back to tying the loop back to the customer, right?
I mean, that's one of the things I think is most important that I'm always trying to coach in the CSMs on, is just closing the loop, because it creates so many moments of delight with customers when, something came up a long time ago and maybe, their expectation, frankly, is like, you may never follow up, but it'll probably get fixed.
Yeah.
So as long as, you fix it, that's obviously the very minimum for a SaaS product or any product. But then if you follow up and say, hey, thanks for the feedback, we got this thing fixed, that's a fantastic experience. So yes, would love to talk with you about that. I didn't know about the release yet.
Feature requests, especially because they tend to take longer. They might take a few months, but being followed, like you said, that delight feature or that delight moment of, hey, that thing you asked about 2 months ago, we've now rolled that out, can be really powerful.
Yeah, that is actually just one quick thing on that is this is a sort of a tangent, but related. We used to use a different platform for collecting product feedback. And the reason why we moved it into Jira is so that we could associate those tickets with major releases. Because what we would find is that often people would ask for a specific feature, and they would ask for a feature that was analogous with a competitor's feature, but isn't the best way to build it in our platform. So we would actually build something that was different, but still solves the same pain. And so being able to associate those together, like in a sort of a fuzzy way around the use case and not just around the individual feature request, is very difficult to do. And we've done it pretty well for large releases, but being able to manage that better, I think, is a huge opportunity for customer success, product, and engineering to work together.
I love that. I agree. So I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about, Kate, something that you touched on earlier, which is proactive communication with customers. Would love to hear a little bit more about how you're doing and the value you see in that. Pav, I want to talk a little bit about kind of something you said earlier, which is Slack is where the world is going, and so we should lean into that. And then we'll talk a little bit about what you wish existed, and we'll answer some of the Q&A as well. But Kate, want to start with you. So you mentioned marketing automation. You mentioned proactively engaging your customers. Tell us a little bit more about that, about how you're thinking about that, the value that you've seen in that, and anything else that you'd like to share that might help some of the listeners.
Yeah, again, we have used this feature in so many different ways. Like, I don't even call it like marketing automation. Like, I think it is just like messaging automation, because we use this as simply as, hey, next Monday is a holiday. Like our team is not going to be available. And so we use Thena to just simply get a message out to users, and we don't care if they engage with it as long as it's in there and that they can see it, when they go to log an issue. But more kind of tactically, like I said, we kind of are starting to use this along the customer journey. And I'm really excited to see. So I saw somebody in the Q&A talked a bit about like kind of the analytics piece and like how you use Thena for that. And so where I find the analytics on that marketing automation really valuable is we're always looking for design partners within our customers. So hey, we're looking to build this new feature. Any idea who would be interested in this? Well, our marketing automation, right? I can see, oh, interesting. Customer X, was the most engaged with this post. Maybe we should reach out to them about that. And so that's been really, I should also say in our community as well. You want to know in your community, are there lead opportunities there? Are there people that are most often engaging with our content that we could actually go proactively reach out to? So those are like kind of the two main ones. And I think the third, again, we're on a monthly release schedule and we do patches of our product pretty consistently. It's probably like on a bi-weekly basis. And so a really big challenge for us is, again, with a self-hosted product, we have no telemetry. So we never know what version is this customer on versus that customer on. And so it's always kind of a challenge for us. And again, this is a great way for us to say, oh, interesting. I know customer X, we will send out a blog post or what have you. And it's like, I know customer X is on an earlier version of our product, but they seem to be really engaging with this. We should re-engage them on upgrading to the latest version and partnering with them on that. So for me, like as a customer success leader who, I think everybody here can agree, like there's such limited time in the day, and I would love to spend my entire day on the phone with customers. Like that would be my preference. But I can't. And so it's a great way for me, and I have the messages come from me directly. So at least I'm sort of a present person in their customer experience, and they know that I'm someone that they can reach out to. So it's been invaluable.
Incredible. Lane, anything else that you want to add there in terms of proactive communication?
One thing I would just plus one is the ability for CSMs to just send messages out to their customers, either subsets of customers or their specific customers. It's a way for them to keep people updated and also just to like inject some personal touch into it. For example, I saw recently one of our SMs went on a trip to Southeast Asia, and she posted something about her trip. She was like, hey, I'm going to be out of the office for a couple of weeks. Here's the people that are covering. I'm going to be on this trip. And it created this really delightful, just like personal moment of people giving like travel recommendations, and it really like humanizes the experience. So I love when people, kind of pick it up and use it for things like that, because ultimately it's a human business, and that's what it's all about, is creating those moments, not just like pushing out a flood of announcements.
Wow.
I love that. We saw a lot of that too during the holidays. People would say, hey, we're going to be offline, or we're going to be there. There's a holiday and we won't be working. Here's how to get a hold of us if there's anything else. And in order to do that across hundreds of channels, making that automated is really helpful. Okay, so Pav, you said something earlier where Slack is where the world's going. And this is an open conversation for everybody, but it's this general question of what do you envision is the role of Slack in the future of customer engagement?
Yeah, this feels like my baby that I'm about to like answer, because I have sunk so much time into the tools and everything and the big players in the game, and everything just keeps coming back to Slack. And this is a conversation we keep running at the leadership team over here at DataStax. Quite literally, there isn't anything like it. Like, you can bring a competitor, sure, you can raise it, but there will always be more powerful points being, raised for Slack. I'll give you an example, right? So Slack is yes, you have teams, I know businesses running on Discord, right? Discord is trying to enter this space, and you can see them trying to enter this space. It's very, very interesting, but they simply don't have the amount of partners Slack does. And as we know, as people and leads in customer success, is Partners are everything. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, what you say, what you can remove with the features, the value each person can get from that relationship, let alone that the platform you just sold them to, so Slack in this case, is way more in that partnership. So for me and like a lot of our customers, like a lot of them, probably most of them, is, hey, can I just be informal with you? Like, hey, like, do we have to, quite literally on a Zoom call, like, do we have to do a ticket? Like, is that really a thing? 2 years ago when I was a 2.5 and 3 years ago when I was a technical support engineer, I got a question, hey, can I WhatsApp you? That was the question. And at the time, it's silly of me now, right? Because of like what I'm trying to lead up right now. I kind of looked at that like, should I go and just move to the side and laugh in the corner? And that was very, very naive of me because that's exactly where the market's headed now. It's yes, meet your customers where they are, but then you have these like really odd kind of standout customers who want to do something totally different. Now you got Salesforce coming with, hey, we can tie your Facebook Messenger messages to our platform. Do you want to like, hey, do you want to message us on Twitter? I can help you on that. That was the rare things. Every single time I've talked with our biggest enterprise customers, it was, can I talk to you on Slack? It was never anything else. You had these like odd characters, odd customers that you really want to support. And guess what? You can do that now. Because if I wanted to WhatsApp you, I don't need to use WhatsApp, but I can use Slack and I can use things like Zapier, Workato, and stay in Slack. So that's been the whole push. And why I'm such a big champion for Slack, Mike, and Lane and Kate is you my outlook into customer success kind of starts with start at home with the employees first, right? If I'm not able to provide a great experience for the employees, the customer success managers, the account execs, they're not going to be able to perform their best with the customers to give them the success. So no platform, nothing I use, Salesforce, Jira, even to we at one point we started using Notion for like KBA articles and it was great. Like it was great, but it's just the adoption was very poor. And then I realized Slack has released canvases, and I've been doing this with Thina actually in our channel, where we have canvases as our KBA system, where we are live updating different segments and bookmark it at the top of the channel. So anyone who enters this channel is always going to know this is the information I need to know right off the bat. That's been the whole push. And internally with automations and I guess your processes, your bots that you want to create, no other platform. I stand by it. I die on this hill. No other platform is able to offer such a versatile platform for you to go and do things on. And this ties in perfectly with AI, right? Like AI is the thing. It is the hype period is over. It's coming, it has come, and it will be here for a very long time. And when you look at this much information that's happening on a platform, where are all the AI people actually creating tools for? If you look, it's Slack. So why should you not be operating in it? That's my big push.
Yeah, I think one thing that when you talk about the employee experience, one thing that I wanted to bring up is when we were rolling this out more broadly with the customer success team, the customer success managers were terrified because they had been in the world before where they had customers DMing them support questions all the time that they didn't know the answer to. And they were then swivel sharing, they would create a ticket in Zendesk or go ask in another channel and then bring the answer back. And some SOs were spending tons of time doing this. So they thought, oh my gosh, you're going to open the floodgates and we're going to have all these questions that we can't answer or that we shouldn't be spending our time on. And that is where like we were able to assuage all of those concerns by just saying, hey, you don't even need to join these channels. So people aren't going to be DMing you. You're answering them from one triage channel in Slack or from the Athena UI. Once everyone realized, it was a little bit of a mental leap because nothing like this existed for us before. But once everybody realized that, it creates a fantastic employee experience because you have one front door, but then on the back end, you can make sure that the right people are involved. So if something is a support ticket, it automatically, even sometimes before the CSM will respond, if they're in another meeting or something, the AI will detect, hey, this is a support question. I'm going to go ahead and automatically raise a Zendesk ticket. So it's kind of it's flowing properly between our systems. That alleviates a lot of the burden from people feeling like they need to monitor all these channels that are lighting up on the left side of Slack, which is honestly just nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And we did that. We did it for a very long time until Athena has now entered our lives. Like we did that, and I don't have the number at the top of my head, but I think it was not just customer base, but just channels where you are talking about customers. They might not be in there. Very, very valuable conversations. We were in like the 300, 400 count. And you got people jumping in between them, like leaving, entering, and then there was no real lifeline to a given channel. Now we have Thena where it's like exactly what you said. You just need to be in that one channel, the triage channel. You can keep track. And the account execs will eventually get their own version as well. That's the whole plan. It's like using Thena not just for customer success, but also as an internal tool. I mean, I watch Thena do it all the time with my requests when I message them and they use it for themselves. And that is a perfect selling point, a perfect experience of CS, like being a great customer support or customer service business is awesome. But if you're at home, operations are not very successful, there is no ways like it will bleed through to your customers. I have seen it happen, and that's why innovating first at home is the goal.
I love that. Kate, anything else you want to add there, especially around what Lane was sharing about the chaos before, the anxiety of CS or customer facing teams without a tool, and then kind of how tooling has shifted that mindset?
Yeah, like I think for us, it was definitely that just level of anxiety. And where Slack is really can be really challenging is, we tend to add like most of our CS team to all channels because you never know when you need coverage when you're going to be out, or you never know, when someone it quite frankly just might not have time to get back to something. And so it immediately created this chaos of saying, okay, I have these 125 customer channels. Like, is that customer my customer? I don't remember. And so it was really, you could certainly go through the process of kind of grouping them, but still, it kind of created this very gray line between swim lanes within the team. And so that's, I think, the first place Thena's helped us is like, it's alleviated some of that stress for the team where they can go into Thena, they can use the Kanban board to say, okay, these are my 50 customers. What's going on with them in this moment? I also think like the other kind of chaotic thing it's really helped us do, or kind of the before and after life, has been, we're a team that again, we leverage Slack significantly internally, and we leverage a lot of integrations. So like every tool that we're using is in some form or fashion integrated with Thena. And so like for those teams that might not be in those customer channels, it's given us a way to kind of forward the most pertinent messages to the right channel so that they're ultimately, in the know of what the issue is. And so yeah, I think maybe the last thing I'll mention, like we're actually considering using Thena as our full-blown ticketing system. We use Zendesk today, and it's I feel like, no offense to anybody from Zendesk on here, we've just found it to be really challenging for our team to use. And so like we're actually considering just using Thena entirely end to end for our kind of like ticketing triage to resolution process. And I think that will even further remove some of the barriers that we're experiencing as it relates to this cross-functional work.
I love that. Well, look forward to helping you with that, and really that consolidation of tickets, consolidation of even data, which is one of the challenges that I think I see historically, where all that information is limited in different systems. When you can consolidate it, you can do more thoughtful things as well. I do see a couple questions in the Q&A. I'll just address them real quickly, and then maybe have one more final question, then we'll let people wrap up. So Connor, you asked a question about the beta of our knowledge assistant, which is basically accessing documentation to auto reply. I don't think anyone on this call is in the beta, but it's available. So if anyone is interested in being part of that, reach out to me. Anyone on the call, feel free to reach out to me. It's really interesting because this will help make teams more efficient as well, being able to auto respond to certain things with relevant documentation and answers. Let's see. I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball maybe for the last question, but it's I think it'll help you guys. So while we're on the call, while it's recorded, the question is, what do you wish existed? If you had a magic wand in a perfect world, what do you want Fina to build? And I'll commit to it on this call, and then we'll be forever committed to you because it's recorded. Anyone have any thoughts? Things that don't exist that you wish existed?
This is really dangerous, Mike, because every time I ask you to create something, you're already started building it. And you're like, oh yeah, we'll put you into the beta.
That is dangerous.
I would maybe one thing for me would be like I really love the analytics and kind of reporting section of Thena. Like I get a ton of insight out of that, but I would love to be able to build my own reports and dashboards within Thena. So for example, for our top 10 customers, I want to be able to get this kind of visibility, in all of these different areas. And oh, by the way, I send that out to my exec team, my fellow exec members on a weekly basis so they can see what's going on with our customers. Like, I think that would be, again, the power of Thena to me is not only in the efficiency you gain, but it's the visibility. And so it's like, how do I not only scream from the rooftops, like my team is awesome, like we're doing this great work and showing that. But again, creating that visibility so they can also jump in and help from there. So that would be my ask.
I love it. I'm gonna go talk.
I wouldn't be surprised if you're
We'll get it
already
done. I know, right?
Yeah, another thing. So I absolutely love Gong's AI summaries of calls, and they're like shockingly accurate. Sometimes they're hilarious. It was be like they chatted about the weather and their dogs, and then like the actual topics. But I would love to get a digest of that, like to the point about product feedback or just what's going on across the entire estate of channels. Like have someone for executives and managers to see the summary of what's being discussed by theme, and then what are the actionable points that we could take away from that. And then even push that into our customer success platform. Like if we could do it by account, like here's the weekly summary of what happened, because pushing all of the individual messages into our CSP would be way too heavy.
I love that. Let's talk afterwards.
That's a good one.
We'll dive a little bit deeper into that. Pav, anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of an odd one out, but I think we've talked about this, Mike, a very long time ago, but I truly envision that, I'd love Fina to have a full support system around the no code, low code platforms. That's where the market's heading. And for us to be able to utilize things like Fina within Zapier or Workato, right? That's dreamland for us. Even though most of the stuff, you already solve with your product, right? The things that we thought we need to automate, it's like, oh wait, Fina already does this. I totally see the use of it coming down the line, right? As things get more complex. And the way Kate mentions, like she wants to, the business envisions moving completely to Fina as the main ticketing system. And Mike, you and I have visited this conversation a few times as well, where I truly would love to see that one day as well, where DataStax has decided to approach a Slack first model, which is going to be our goal eventually. But when those points reach, I feel like having the ability to have a supported Zapier integration or Workato integration that I can then mess around with all these other things, that removes a lot of the load of waiting for a feature that maybe isn't as valuable to another customer as it might be for this customer. So it kind of puts the engineering overhead on the business to do themselves. And that would be my most favorite thing, I think.
I love it. That's a good one. I'm about to go blow up our Q2 roadmap soon. Well, with that's a great way to end. I love it. Thanks, Jake, also for the comment in the Q&A. So Lane, Kate, Bob, huge thank you, not only for your support and partnership, but also for sharing all your insights and learnings. Some really great quotes as well today. So everyone, I'm sure, appreciates your you spending time sharing. For those that are still on the call, we will share out the recording as well. We'll clip it as well. I think there's a few good clips that you can also pass along to other folks. So thank you all. Appreciate it.